Hi, I'm Grace. My art brand is Foot Range Mountain, and this video is going to be a walkthrough of my foil embossing kits. And most of this walkthrough is going to include the bird design. So first we're going to go over the tools and materials that come with your kit. You've got your embossing tool. We're mostly going to be using this pointy end here. It works a lot like a pen. The punch awl, which we'll use to finish our project at the end, along with the string if you choose to display your project that way. The felt pad is for creating some depth and texture with your embossing and allows some cushion for that. You're going to get some embossing sheets. It comes standard. Most of these kits are going to come standard with 3 foils, so silver tone, gold tone, and copper tone. But of course, if you want to just get all of one color, that is an option. And the template that comes along with a cellophane sleeve, I like to put my template inside of the sleeve so that it just makes the embossing process a little bit smoother and easier, makes the template last a little bit longer. I always like to include an extra sheet of foil in the kit. This is meant for you to get familiar with the materials, to kind of figure out how to use it, how to use your tool, get comfortable with making your own marks and with cutting. So I encourage you to just kind of test it out, see what it feels like to draw on the foil. I also encourage you to try just tracing part of your template at this point, just to make sure that you have a sense of how much pressure to put, how it all works. This is really just a way for you to kind of get familiar with things before you start using your final foil pieces to make your final ornaments. Once you feel comfortable with your materials after testing on your test sheet, it's time to go ahead and make our final foil piece. Take your template and flip it over, and I'm going to use a silver sheet as my color for this. And just make sure that it's placed over top of your design. You can see through the paper where the design is. And once you get it placed, I like to use a little bit of masking tape to secure it in place so nothing shifts around. And then make sure your felt pad is underneath your foil and your template, and it's time to get started. So, as I said before, this pointy end is just going to work a lot like a pencil or a pen or something. You're just going to draw over top of this template. Another good idea is while you're working, just check your progress, flip it over, and see what it looks like on the other side to make sure that you're staying within the foil and that you like the way that your marks are coming out, that you're applying enough pressure and that they're showing up. One note here is that if you're using the toned foil, like the copper tone or the gold tone, just be mindful of which way your foil is facing. If you want your relief to be drawn down into the foil, like I'm going to show you in these examples, just make sure that your foil is facing up along with the template. I like to go back through and add a little bit more detail. So like here, I think that I'll just kind of define some of my parts a little bit more. If you want, so in my example here, you can see there's just a little bit of sort of a raised feeling to separate the body in the background and the wing in the foreground. And the way I did that's really simple. I just kind of find this wing joint from the back and kind of trace that part, and it lifts it over top of the bird, and then I just add a little bit more definition to continue to create that lift right here. I think it makes a really nice effect. All right, so next it's time to cut it out. I like to use fine definition precision craft scissors. These are some of my favorites. So just take your time cutting these out. I like to make sure that I'm coming at it from both angles to meet some of these sharper corners. And please be careful handling this material because this foil does have sharp edges, and also be very careful of these little metal pieces that are left over. Make sure that they're all accounted for. It's not pleasant to step on these with bare feet, I can tell you. And I thought this would be a good one to use as an example for when the metal bends. And you'll see that the wingtips bend up a little bit and some of these details are a little bit bendy. And the beautiful thing about this material is it doesn't matter. It's not anything to stress over. And so you can just kind of finger press it back into place. And again, you can see it's all kind of bent. And maybe you like that. Maybe the texture and sort of dynamic shape of it makes it seem a little bit more organic and lifelike, but if you want it to lay flat, just finger press it back in. All of those imperfections add to how the light reflects off of it. Adds a little bit of lighting interest. And it's time to figure out how we want to display them. So I've included a punch awl here, and this allows you to hang them as an ornament or give them a more permanent sort of display. Get a nice thick cardboard piece to put underneath to cushion the awl. And so just find your spot and punch your hole, and it's tapered. So if you want to hang this on like a thicker string or a thicker ribbon, then you can just increase the size of this hole using your awl. So for that example, say that I just want to hang this by itself, I'll take my string that came with my kit and cut out a length. I like to do a girth knot, so I'll double it. Let's see, about that length seems good to me. So for the girth knot, once you've fed the string through the back of your ornament, just feed them back through the loop and tighten it up. And you have a hanging ornament. If you want to use punched holes to create a garland, you can see that my preference for doing this is creating two holes that are kind of close together. And so in this example, I'll use these two pieces, and you can see they're like a quarter, half an inch apart holes. And so I'm just going to take my string. You can see it's kind of frayed at the end, and all I do to remedy that is just take some sharp scissors and cut it, make it a nice fresh little start to feed through the hole. So you can just come up from behind, loop through the front, and now they just kind of hang from those punched holes on the string. And I don't want to have my pieces permanently have a hole in them from the punch awl. Then what I would do is tape them. And so I'm going to do that in this example and just take my pieces and arrange them. So now that I have them all kind of laid out the way that I want, I'm just going to flip everything over, lay my string on top, and then take some of that masking tape because it comes off pretty easily. It's not going to leave typically any residue on there. And then make sure that whether it's the holes that you punch or the tape that you're using, that you're using gravity to your advantage. And so in this case, it's going to be just a little bit in the top third of the bird's design. Otherwise, your design, if it's not hanging up flat against something, is going to want to flip over. So now you've got a garland. And again, if one day you look at it and you're like, I don't want this anymore. I don't want it to be a horizontal garland. I want it to be a vertical garland. You can just untape it. You could change the orientation and the entire thing now becomes a vertical garland. So I hope that you enjoy your kit. I hope you have a lot of fun with it. Make sure to take some liberties, make it your own. Just have fun. It's easy to make something beautiful even with little mistakes in it.